Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, your podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky, and this week I am joined by the man who has just installed his new Armitage Shanks barbecue. It's Greg. How are you today, Greg?
I'm doing well. I've actually, you might be able to hear in my voice, I've got a little bit of a sort of nasally cold. And of course, in these pandemic days, as soon as you've got a cold, everybody assumes that you got COVID. But I don't have COVID. One, because I'm fully vaccinated, and two, because COVID isn't a snottery illness. My wife Paula has just started a little business selling essential oils, like fragrant oils. So she's given me this little pot of natural poppers that says breathe on the top there. So whenever my nose gets a wee bit bunged up, I'm just going to take a little nostril full to clear me out.
Okay, so if we hear you inhaling deeply, we know that you haven't been to the 24-hour shop on Hutchins Street.
No, definitely not.
You've been inhaling natural poppers. Natural poppers? I suppose, yeah. I did, yeah, because I used to, when I lived in Dubai, I was never bothered with my sinuses at all until I lived there. And I had years of sinus issues. So you would always find me with a bottle of Albus oil in my pocket and regularly inhaling that quite deeply.
Well, it's been dusty. I mean, when I lived in Kuwait, when it was dusty there, and it could be dusty there for on and off for the first sort of 2 or 3 months of the year, and I would always be bunged up. It's horrible because it's warm, but it's overcast, which is weird because when you come from the UK, when it's overcast, you expect it to be a wee bit nippy, or at least a wee bit cool. And whereas here, it's really it's sort of stuffy. You know what I mean? Because it's warm and it's been dusty. So that's all I put it down to. I don't have any other symptoms other than being a bit bunged up. But I've got my natural poppers there, my natural record cleaning fluid. So I'll just take a nostril full of that every now and again, and I'll be really relaxed.
Now, before we go into the news this week, and because we have a news ban on a certain product.
We do.
So let's cover this before the news, because you sent me a photo this week of a certain product that you had sampled. So would you like to give it a little review on the Swally?
I can do. We said last week that we wouldn't have any more Irn Bru news, but whilst this is an Irn Bru product, it's not an official Irn Bru product. So I mentioned these on a couple of episodes ago of the Swally when we were talking about Irn Bru for a change. And they're by Aldi, and they're Millions. So any young people listening will know about Millions. They're little sort of tiny, chewy kind of rocks, flavoured little chewy rocks, I guess is the easiest way to describe them. So my wife and I were at my Scottish friends on Thursday night, and she's got a real sweet tooth, so she's got a drawer full of sweets that people have brought back from, so generally things that you can't pick up in Dubai. And she, for some reason, had a few packets of Irn Bru Millions, which she gave a packet each to my daughters because they were with us. We were playing cards and stuff. So I tasted them, and they taste a bit like Irn Bru. Not,
Oh, good.
You could manage. I mean, I could manage a whole packet, but I managed a pinch of Irn Bru Millions, and that was enough for me. So, if you want to rot your teeth out, then get yourself down to Aldi. Well, that was the news, wasn't it? They just got them back in stock and they sold out really quickly. I think that was a news story, right?
It was indeed. So, that's a good review. Then we know that they taste like Irn Bru. So that's a good recommendation then.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. All right. Well, shall we crack on with the news?
Let's crack on with the news. Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
And never has that jingle been more apt than it is on this episode. What have you seen in the last couple of weeks in Scotland that has caught your eye? Anything exciting? Remember, there's an Irn Bru ban.
So I don't have any Irn Bru news for the first time in I think maybe 3 episodes. I got nothing to say about Irn Bru apart from the Millions. Well, my first story this week comes from the Daily Record on the 7th of May, and the headline reads, "Takeaway owner used pot lid and meat cleaver to fight off robber." So there's a photograph at the top of the article of of an Asian chap who owns the Chinatown Chinese takeaway in Linwood in Glasgow. His name's Derek Tang. On the picture, he's holding the pot lid up like a shield in one hand, and he's got a meat cleaver in the other hand, and what can only be described as his war face posing for the camera. He told of the moment that he confronted a robber that he believed was armed with a shotgun, and he pushed the weapon away as he fought him off. Derek Tang said he shoved what he thought was a gun out of the road before grabbing a knife and a curry pot lid, and he used the items to fend off Alan Fordyce, who allegedly robbed the Chinatown takeaway in Linwood. Tang, who's 44, made the claims on Wednesday afternoon while giving evidence at Paisley Sheriff Court. Fordyce denies assaulting Mr. Tang and robbing money from his takeaway with an imitation firearm made of 2 metal poles and a piece of wood that had been fashioned to look like a shotgun. Fordyce has lodged a special defence of incrimination, claiming the assault and robbery was actually committed by a man named Paul Macbeth, who has since sadly passed away and can't defend himself. And he also entered a special defence alibi, claiming it could not have been committed by him, as he was at home in Linwood at the time of the offence. But Tang identified him to police officers and in court as being the man he claims was responsible for the robbery, which took place at about 11:15 p.m. on June the 6th of last year. Mr. Tang explained, "I heard a big bang at the door. I thought there must be something wrong outside. It was very unusual. I saw a guy with a big weapon standing at the takeaway door inside the kitchen. It looked like a gun. It had a double barrel and was wrapped around a poly bag. Seemed metallic. I thought, if anything goes wrong, it's very serious. First of all, I shoved the double barrel away, and at the very next moment he pulled out a knife. I moved backwards about a foot away from him. I quickly grabbed my chopper to defend myself and a curry pot lid to use as a shield to defend myself for my safety. He wanted money. He was saying, 'Give me your money.' I felt threatened, but at that point, he only wanted money. My wife was nearby in the kitchen, and staff at the other side of the takeaway. I thought, there's nothing I can do if something goes wrong. It's quite life-threatening." The court heard he told police in the statement he gave at the time, "I knew it wasn't a gun, as I could see it was poles, but he told the jury that it looked like a gun from a distance before he got up close to the robber, and he said he was quite scared during the incident, which saw him trying to get the man out as quickly as he could. He said he could guarantee it was not Macbeth who robbed his takeaway in the night in question, and that he did not notice a tattoo on the robber's right hand. The court was earlier shown a picture of Macbeth, who had a yin and yang tattoo on his right hand, lying dead on the floor of his flat in Linwood with the tattoo visible. Is that the only picture they could have used of this guy? Is of him lying dead on his floor in his flat to look at his tattoo. Anyway, Fordyce maintains his innocence. The trial before Sheriff Tom McCartney continues.
So this guy has come in with a shotgun that he's made off of Blue Peter. Yeah. So I don't know, Anthea Turner or Tim Vincent, whatever, has showed him how to make this shotgun after Tracy Island.
Maybe.
Our hero, I'm sorry, what was his name? Tim?
No, Derek Yang.
Derek Yang. So when he came in brandishing his Tracy Island shotgun, Derek didn't know it wasn't a shotgun. And it wasn't until he got up close and personal that he realised it was a broom handle. It
wasn't until he grabbed his chopper and his curry pot lid and approached the guy. He could see that... but he did think it could be quite serious.
But by this point, the attacker had pulled out a knife, yeah?
He must have realised that his Blue Peter shotgun wasn't fooling anybody.
So did Derek grab like I can imagine, I mean, we've got one in the kitchen, like a big cleaver.
It's like, you know how when you watch like a John Woo movie or like a Kung Fu movie and there's a fight in the kitchen and somebody picks up like a butcher's cleaver. It's one of those.
I really hope that when his assailant kind of pulled out the knife, Derek kind of grabbed his cleaver and went, "That's not a knife, this is a knife."
I mean, if he didn't, it's a missed opportunity, right?
Hey, fair play. And that's amazing. To grab a pot lid and a cleaver and fend off your attacker when you think they've got a shotgun. Oh, fair play, Derek. You are our hero of the week.
Absolutely,
That's incredible.
Yep.
That's brilliant. And to be able to fight them off, you're protecting your business, and good on him, man. That's amazing.
I know I asked before, but Alan Fordyce, who's the guy that's up in court for doing this, is claiming that it wasn't him because he was at home, right? It's about, a good brief could probably knock some holes in that alibi. But it was this poor guy who's passed away called Paul Macbeth, who had a tattoo of a yin and yang in the back of his hand. The only photograph that they could get to show the court this tattoo was the picture of poor Paul lying dead on his floor in his flat. Well, that's crackers.
If they at least blurred his face out.
Well, there's no picture of Paul in the paper. They've at least spared him that indignity. But, I don't know what, it's just bizarre. Why it was the only picture you've got of somebody is the guy lying dead. So yeah, I'll put the picture of Derek up on the website with a wee link to the story. He does they've got a picture of him looking quite bold and heroic. These sunglasses on his head, the wind has kind of caught his fringe a little bit and he's got his arms folded, looking like hard as fuck. And then the picture that I described earlier of him standing in front of his shop with his chopper out, his curry pot shield, making his war face, and you can read it at your leisure.
Well, my first news story also has a restaurant kind of takeaway slant. So I think we've all been kind of in lockdown and everyone's been ordering food because obviously haven't been able to go into restaurants. You know what it's like? You see pictures of the food you're going to order, and when it turns up, especially when it's like a burger, it never looks like it does in the picture.
No. You're right, it definitely never does.
So, this is from Edinburgh Live this week. Edinburgh restaurant slams attention-seeking customer over burger picture. A restaurant in South Queensferry has called out a customer for attention-seeking after they shared an image of a burger they said looked nothing like it was advertised. Popular eatery, Down the Hatch, I think I've seen a few of their films actually, was less than impressed after Joe Steele posted comparison pictures on Twitter captioned expectation versus reality. The disappointed customer posted an image taken from Down the Hatch's Instagram page showing their vibrant daily special, the Jerk Burger, next to what he actually received. The £15 order comes with buffalo fries, and it's a burger filled with smoked pork shoulder, lettuce, onions, tomatoes, melted cheese, and several dressings. But the comparison picture posted by Joe, with his plain-looking burger, could be mistaken for a McDonald's bargain order. He attracted over 8,000 comments and likes on his page with this post, with people saying that they would be raging. However, Down the Hatch fought back. They claimed that the customer was attention-seeking, and they responded to his post saying, "Hi Joe, it's quite obvious that you've taken items out of your burger, or ordered them without items. We are 100% confident we would never send a special like that. Attention-seeking, hey?" I love their comeback. That is brilliant. I love when companies fight back. The Twitter exchange attracted a lot of attention and almost 300 retweets, where locals gave their opinion. Natasha Konski said, "I'd be raging." Stuart Fern replied, "I spent £42 on 2 burgers, 2 portions of loaded fries and a milkshake. I can honestly say it was the shitest scran I've ever had." Some foodies weighed in with their opinion and supported the diner, saying that the food that they've had has always been really good. I've never been disappointed by their specials. What do you expect when you order it without all the toppings? Joe later added it was probably a mix-up, but he was not impressed with the restaurant's response, saying, "I was the same until I got that order. It's probably just a case of mix-up, but someone else has tweeted me about this and try to say I'm getting attention-seeking is hilarious. Ha ha ha." However, the reason I picked this story goes to at Muzz1875, who is evidently a Hibs fan, and he replied to the post with, "Fucking hell, that's like ordering a mail-order bride, and you think you're getting Margot Robbie, whereas in reality, you get Margot with a bobby." I've never ordered from Down the Hatch, but I mean, the burger looks amazing in the photos. The photo that Joe posted, it does look a pathetic burger. Like, it does look like a burger he's just put in a sesame seed bun, but I can imagine he has taken stuff out or he's ordered stuff out without it. But good on the restaurant for fighting back, though. I mean, you work in restaurant industry, you know, in terms of social media or people slagging off orders, do you ever fight back?
I mean, the company I work for is quite a big international company and probably wouldn't feel good about being cheeky to someone that was complaining. But I mean, people that like try to shame any kind of business online without with a complaint, instead of going straight to the business and giving them a chance to resolve it, are cunts. Really? You know what I mean? Don't know what else to say. I do remember when I was a young manager and I worked in a restaurant in Glasgow and I got a phone call one Sunday morning from this guy. And it was quite early, it's about 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. He was complaining that we'd given him food poisoning. So there's in those days, and probably as now, there's a process to follow. So there's a little sort of kind of questionnaire that I need to fill out, questions to ask the guy on the phone. So I say, well, when were you in the restaurant? Oh, I was in last night with my girlfriend. So, right, okay, what time did you come in? About 8 o'clock, right. What did you have to eat? He says, I had a New York sirloin steak with chips, tomato, and a fried mushroom. I said, how did you have your steak cooked? Oh, well done. Of course, like it was a stupid question. I said, did you have anything else? He said, me and the bird shared a sundae afterwards. I was like, right, okay. I said, did you have anything to drink? And he said, well, there wasn't a table ready when we arrived, so we had to wait in the bar for 40 minutes. So I had a couple of pints when I was waiting, and then at the table, I had another pint, and then me and her shared a bottle of red wine. I was like, right, okay. I said, what did you do after the restaurant? Did you go to the cinema? Because we were beside the cinema. He says, no, we were up the town. We had a night out up the town. I said, did you have anything to drink? He says, well, I was up and out the town. I was out in the town. So I said, well, tell me your symptoms again. And he said, I've had a pure upset stomach all morning. Can't get off the toilet. I said, do you think maybe you just had too much to drink yesterday? No, man, that was a light night for me, by the way. So, right, well, I'm going to send this form off to our health and safety department and somebody will be in touch. Fucking clown. On the subject of food, so I popped a wee picture on Instagram the other day that I found on Facebook of a pie, like a kind of mutton pie, supper pie, in a roll.
Yeah.
Well, how did you feel about that? I mean, obviously you're vegetarian but...
That's a fucking abomination. I love a Scotch pie. Like, genuinely, that was one of the things I missed the most. And when I found in Park and Shop in Dubai they sold Scotch pies, my freezer always had boxes of Scotch pies in them. And when I went to Pataudry every week, genuinely, I'd have 3 pies at the football. I fucking love pies. When I took my wife to the football for the first time, and it was nearing half time, and she said, I said, we need to go and get a pie. Will you go and get them? She said, okay. She said, what do you want? I was like, 3 pies, please. She said, what? 3? I was like, yeah, 3 pies. I can safely say I've never put a pie in a roll. It's just what I know. Is it not like a Glasgow kind of thing?
I think it is.
I have seen it, but I could never fathom putting a pie in a roll.
No, it is weird. I mean, I'm saying it's weird, but I'm imagining a good sort of Glasgow roll with hundreds of butter on it and a hot pie, making the butter melt, salty butter all over the pie, and I'm thinking, might be all right.
I mean, the photo you shared didn't have any sauce on the pie. Do you not put sauce on it?
Well, I think you would have to. I think it would be a bit dry to have a rolling pie, even if you had hundreds of butter on it. I think you need like maybe some HP on there. I don't know if ketchup goes very well with a Scotch pie. I don't really like ketchup, so I've not been in a position to comment.
I have ketchup in a Scotch pie.
Oh, do you? I never really like ketchup, but maybe some HP on there, it would be nice. So tell me, why did you need 3 pies at the football? Because 2 to eat and 1 to throw at the opposition fans? Or?
No, mind you, I did once throw a pie at Neil Lennon, actually. It didn't hit him, but it just missed him. I was quite surprised I didn't get thrown out for that, actually. But no, you wouldn't throw a pie normally, waste it. I mean, I think they scored just after half-time, right. And Lennon came up right in front of where I was sitting, and I just fucking launched half my pie at him. I couldn't help it. Involuntary reaction. Don't do that, kids. It's not nice.
I'm sure he said worse throwing
3 pies. What's wrong with that? Well, 1 pie is not enough. 2 is satisfying, but then you're still kind of like, okay, go on there, pie. Plus, generally, if I've been at the football, I've been in the pub beforehand. I've had probably 5-6 pints. Quite often than not, I had to go to work at 6 o'clock when I was working in bars, so I needed 3 pies to soak up the booze so I could go and do my night shift.
I do miss a pie from an Aberdeen bakery. I do miss it. I used to like getting actually, I'm saying eating 3 pies. I would, if I was walking, I lived up at the top of George Street on Elmbank Terrace. If I was walking home, I would always stop at the bakery and I would always buy 2 steak Scotch pies. So not with the mutton in it, but with like steak pie filling in it, like really thick gravy.
That's not a Scotch pie. No. It's a steak pie.
Yeah, I know, but you wouldn't get that in a pie shop in Glasgow, so it would look different. I'd buy 2 steak pies and I would buy 1 or 2 chocolate cornflake or Rice Krispie cakes and a bottle of Irn Bru for the morning, like without fail. And the thing was, that all that would cost me about £3.50 back in the days. Do you know what I mean? £3.50.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
You could get a bottle of poppers and round it up to a £5.
I bought a record cleaner and a jazz mag from Hutchins Street. It was too much of a diversion to walk away up to that shop, off George Street up to that shop and back again. If it had been closer to George Street, I'd been right up there. Well, speaking of Aberdeen, my next story comes from the Press and Journal. So, are you familiar with the dating show Naked Attraction?
I am, yes. We have watched that a couple of times. It's good entertainment. So yeah, I'm aware of it and familiar with it.
I haven't seen it, but for anybody, maybe like Strong Henry, one of our Instagram loyal guys who lives in Canada who's not seen it, basically, in this instance, a girl will choose from a selection of men. She kind of rounds them down, so they're naked behind a screen, and they show a naked part of their body, usually their cocks, and she, without seeing their face, she whittles down to the last one. But then, so the guy doesn't have all the humiliation to himself, then the girl has to strip off to the guy she's picked. I mean, it's a long, long way from Cilla Black, which doesn't seem that long ago to me, to be honest. I imagine Blind Date, but without the stupid questions, just guys getting their cocks out on Channel 4. So, an Aberdeen waitress has featured in an episode of dating show Naked Attraction, where suitors strip off in their quest for companionship, only for her to be stood up at the reunion.
Oh no.
So she was tasked with whittling down a group of 6 potential admirers based solely on the power of naked attraction. Clever name. Kerry appeared on the Channel 4 programme alongside journalist and TV presenter Anna Richardson to try and pick up her perfect match. After she's only recently moved to Aberdeen, and apparently she suffered a series of poor dates, she called upon the experts at the game show to help her find her soulmate. I mean, I don't think the people that organise this quiz show are experts in helping people find love. Expert on ratings, perhaps. Speaking on the television show, the 30-year-old said, "I've never lived in Aberdeen before, so I don't know where to meet men." To be fair, the city centre was pretty quiet on the Friday night the last time we were there, so she might have a point.
Well, I mean, everything's been shut down recently, but if she should try the pie shop on Hutchins Street, that's a good place to meet men. Especially if they're buying poppers. Or a porn bag.
She says, "I'm the new girl in the big city and I haven't been able to find anybody yet. I just moved to a new city, so my dating game is a little rusty." Kerry then had to look on and judge each of the naked hopefuls. Stood in their individual pods, each round of the game show revealed another body part and another elimination, eventually eliminating the 6-man lineup down to one lucky man before getting her kit off herself. Looking for a man who could keep up with her adventurous lifestyle, and she's so adventurous she moved to Aberdeen, fuck's sake, she paired up with 23-year-old demolition worker Daniel. After a negative COVID test, so I'm sure everybody that's listening to this was worried about that, the duo then went on their first date, where the flames of romance seemed to fan into a blaze, and the pair shared a kiss before parting ways. However, 2 weeks later, when the pair were scheduled to meet up again on screen, Daniel had reportedly dodged calls from bosses of the TV show and didn't return. Keeping her cool and brushing it off is just one of those things, she added. "I took an 8-hour journey to get here from Aberdeen." Doesn't sound like she's brushing it off. He could have had the decency to at least show up. While she seemingly didn't find love in tonight's episode of Naked Attraction, the experience seemed to do little to dampen the new Aberdonian spirit, so good for her. However, a cautionary note for anybody who didn't watch this episode of Naked Attraction who's thinking, "Oh, I might check that out," with a glowing review from the Culture Swally. The episode also features Naked Attraction's oldest ever picker, 75-year-old naturalist Ian from North Yorkshire, who was on the lookout for his perfect partner. Unless you're into naked old men, you might want to give that episode of Naked Attraction a swerve. I mean, I've never, I've always had a fairly unremarkable but serviceable body. Do you know what I mean? I've managed to snag a wife and have 2 children. But honestly, getting my cock out on television, it's just my worst nightmare. It's no way. I don't care how desperate to meet somebody I was. There are easier ways. And I don't think anybody's getting paid to go on TV and get their cocks out.
No,
You know,
I thought so.
Yeah, I mean, if only we'd known about her situation a few months ago. A good friend of ours came back in the market just before Christmas. We could have paired them off. Too late now, because he's obviously moved on. But yeah, our timing wasn't good enough.
Oh dear. Okay.
What's your next story?
I've got two, but I'm going to... a very quick one, because it doesn't really have a huge story, but it's about... last time on the Swally, we covered a gentleman in Glasgow who was selling a toilet as a barbecue. And this week we have a Glasgow joker who has tried to punt an office chair base as a drone bought from the Barras. So you're familiar with, obviously, the base of an office chair with the wheels and the swivelling base. So yeah, he's put it on the Facebook market page saying that it's for sale for £20 because it's got no remote control and no instructions, and he bought it at the Barras. So if anyone wants to buy it, then he'll happily get rid of it. The newspaper have said, like, if this is true, the poor guy really has been stung. Anyway, if you fancy a new base for your office chair whilst you're working from home, you can always pick one up from the Bearsden, Mulgavie area. That was just a little quick story there for that. But the next story I have is very much Aberdeen-based as well. Now, are you familiar, Greg? Obviously, you used to live in Aberdeen. So you'll know that British home stores shut down quite some time ago, and you'll be familiar with the Aberdeen indoor market that was kind of underneath British Home Stores, yeah?
Yeah, I remember it well.
So if you take the market into consideration, you have like a massive 3-level building there. Mm-hmm. So you could have a big thing. There are plans afoot to turn that into a complex. It's going to have, it's basically going to be like a big like sort of amusement area. That's the current plans. It's going to be called Boom Battle Bar. And they have pitched to turn it into mini golf, curling, shuffleboard, pool, table tennis, marble tables, smart darts, and just what you need in the city centre of Aberdeen, an axe-throwing bar. These plans are that they're going to turn this into a massive kind of amusement park, and they're going to have axe-throwing lanes. Is that the best idea to have in the city centre of Aberdeen?
I mean, I'm with you. I don't think that alcohol and axe-throwing are a particularly good combination anywhere in the world. But I think that axe-throwing has become quite a sort of vogue activity for the sort of rugged Jason Momoa types around town. So I feel like it'll probably do quite well.
Oh yeah, because there's loads of Jason Momoa types rocking around Aberdeen, aren't there?
Do you remember that guy Jason Scotland that used to bounce at Punanaz that was in Gladiator in the background? Well, one of Russell Crowe's crew. He was a bit of a...
Oh, I do, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you want me to cut that out?
Nah, it's fine. He was a total wanker, as I recall. No, I think it is quite vogue. But the only thing is with these things, they become a bit of a... They're not going to sort of endure like other more like 10-pin bowling or whatever. It's the sort of thing you go... It's like escape rooms. You know what I mean? They're quite popular at the moment. Oh, we'll go and do the escape room as a kind of team building thing. But I don't think that it's got legs. And, some of the axe throwers may be losing a limb or two as well. Too many cans of Brewdog before they start hurling axes at boards.
Yeah, I think it takes one incident and then that's it, shut down.
I'm sure it'll be carefully controlled. So what do you think they would do? Do you think they would they would give you like a big sort of gauntlet for your throwing arm in case, in case there's an accident, like some sort of like thick leather in case like the axe kind of slips back or something like that? What do you think? Yeah,
possibly. I think it would have to be very well controlled. So yeah, I'd imagine they maybe do give you some sort of gauntlet that you use. But yeah, I mean, it has to be obviously very well covered because we've seen clips on Facebook and stuff of these axe throwing things that people launch it into the board and then it ricochets out and kind of spins back. You have to be extremely careful, and I can't see that going down well in Aberdeen, but who knows? Maybe it'll be a huge success. And Aberdeen, in 5 years' time, on the Swally, we will be celebrating the Aberdeen axe throwing champion of the world.
Maybe. Perhaps maybe there'll be like a local league. These big farmers coming in from like old Meldrum and out towards Peterhead and all that. These fucking big massive guys practicing throwing axes at their barns. I mean, one of the worst yet and funniest things I ever saw happen to a drunk guy in Aberdeen was I was working, and the reason I remembered this is because I was thinking when you were describing that place, where I can't imagine the Cadoras are going to be too thrilled about a sort of leisure amusement centre opening in the city centre when they've got their little empire down at the beach. But when I worked for them for a little while, they'd opened this Miami Beach, you might remember it, like sort of restaurant complex, and we had a revolving door. And one night, it was Christmas, so coming up for Christmas, kind of Christmas party, and these two guys were spinning the door as quickly as they could, and this guy was going to jump in at the last minute and then jump out again, and unfortunately, he slipped and fell on his arse, and the door slammed on his leg. But it didn't, I think it did break his leg, but it slammed so hard that it took like two bouncers. I don't know where the bouncers were when this was going on, so it was right next to where they stand, to like haul the door so they could get his leg out. And I remember a couple of days later, I got a phone call from a journalist at the Evening Express, because the guy had complained in the paper that it was her fault. And she called up looking for a comment, and we'd all been told, if anybody calls from like the P&J or the Evening Express or any paper, just say that you're not authorised to talk about it. So, not wanting to get fired, I said exactly that. I said, look, I'm not allowed to talk about it. You have to get in touch with somebody more senior. And the girl said, look, understand, it's fair enough. She said, but just between you and me, she said, we were in there for our Christmas night out, and we saw everything that happened. We saw exactly what happened. I was like, all right, okay, fair enough. Well, do you have any more stories?
No, that's me for today. What about yourself? Anything else?
No, I did have one about Glasgow Science Centre, but I just looked at the date, and it's from 2018, so it's not current news. So I'll leave it.
Okay,
I'll leave it.
Okay. Well, I guess that rounds up the news for this week. Shall we have a little delve into a review?
I think we should, and it's a Swally first, because rather than you or I choosing this week's topic, we've had a suggestion from a listener.
It is. We had a request from a listener, from a Mr. Rick Steen in Aberdeen, and I had a little chat with Rick earlier this week, and this is why he picked what he's picked. Hi Rick, welcome to the Swally. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm very happy to be here.
Good. Well, thank you very much. We got your email and with your request for what we're going to be talking about this week. And I just wanted to catch up with you and really ask why you have chosen this. What makes this so important to you that you wanted us to cover it on the Swally?
Well, reason being is that although I was born in Scotland, I lived and brought up in Germany. And I moved to Scotland when I was 12 years old. And this was kind of my first introduction to Scottish. I'd never seen anything like it before. Being brought up on an Air Force base, the most sophisticated humour I'd ever seen was hello, hello. So seeing Rab C, Nesbitt, or seeing Isla, or any of those ones, or the Hamlet man, we used to call him, or anyone else, just kind of blew my mind, really.
Watching it back, it's been years since I've seen this. And I mean, Greg and I will cover it, but I'm quite surprised that the level of some of the humour is it's very political in a way. I guess it's 86, so it's quite surprising in terms of, they're not afraid of having a dig at the Tories and Thatcher and Reagan. So I guess that didn't appeal to
absolutely.
You as a youngster. You were more about the Baldy Man and Rab C Nesbitt.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Most of it went over my head. And there's an end credits with Margaret Thatcher lowering like a lion at the end, like the MGM credits, which I thought was hilarious. I just thought it was wifey roaring along. But I had no idea about the politics. One of my favourite ones, and one I remember so vividly when I got there, was, I think it's from the first series, and it was called Is Scotland Crap? And it was brilliant. And the reason why it rang with me is because there was this one guy in the crowd who's your token Scottish, kind of like, English bastards, get out, or whatever type of thing. And I landed in Scotland with a very strong English accent, because I was brought up on an Air Force base, where basically everyone was walking around going, hello, have you seen my Spitfire? And so I was taught to speak like that. And so it was kind of strange, the kind of laughing at the Scottish humour, trying to mix with my mates who were Scottish as well. Like you said, most of it went over my head, but there were some real laugh out loud things. Like the baldy haired man. I don't know what his real name is. What is the baldy haired name? The guy's real name?
The Baldy Man.
Is he just called the Baldy Man?
Yes.
So it's not a clever title? No. Okay. So the Baldy Man was always my favourite. I thought he was brilliant. That and Shadwell. And I always used to go to school the next day and do a Shadwell. And he's my favourite guy. Absolutely 100%.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that we can do it justice for you.
Excellent. Well, carry on the good work, guys. I love the podcast, and I will speak to you later on.
Thank you very much, Rick. Thank you. So, this week on The Swally, we are going to be talking about Naked Video. Naked Video is a BBC Scotland sketch show that aired on BBC Two from May 1986 through to November 1991. It was the third sketch show overseen by Colin Gilbert, following A Kick Up the 80s and Laugh, I Nearly Paid My Licence Fee. Naked Video was developed from the BBC Radio Scotland series Naked Radio, using the main core cast of the radio show of Ron Bain, Tony Roper, Gregor Fisher, Jonathan Watson, Andy Gray, and Elaine C Smith. They added 2 Welsh comedians, Helen Lederer and Jonathan Sparks. Naked Video was a fast-paced mix of sketches and comedy monologues, and the show brought us such memorable characters as Rab C Nesbitt, the Baldy Man, Shadwell, and Lederer's drunk Sloane character. So I think Naked Video is a bit of a kind of Scottish institution, Greg, and I'll be honest, I have not watched it in years, and I'll come back to my kind of memories of it, but what about yourself? What are your early memories of Naked Video?
Well, we reviewed the first series for this episode, which you mentioned came out in 1986. I didn't see Naked Video until I think I would have been probably around 11, maybe. And I used to watch it with my dad and my stepmother. My stepmother claims some sort of connection to Elaine C Smith. It's never been proven nor disproven. I don't know if she worked with somebody who knew her or something like that, but I remember watching it with them when I was about 11, maybe 12, and laughing a lot at a lot of the sketches. Like really, really laughing. And I remember, obviously, you mentioned Rab C Nesbitt being one of the characters. You know, like he's not in this first series that much, but I remember in the later series, I think he was in every episode at least once, and then obviously realising that he was very much the star of the show, he gets a spin-off into his own TV show. But I got to be honest, I was really looking forward to watching this, because I've not, like you, I've not seen Naked Video for well over 20 years since I ever watched it. So I was looking forward to having a right good laugh, and I didn't laugh all that much, if I'm honest. There were some bits that were genuinely funny, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be a bit of a swally first in that we're not like brimming over with enthusiasm for it. I think, you know, when we were talking about, when you and I were messaging each other when we were watching it, I did say I think that it maybe they get into the groove a bit in the later seasons. I'll have to maybe visit some of those later seasons and see if that is the case, or if it's just I'm looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. But I mean, you know, there was a lot of clever, funny sketches in there, to be fair. But I just didn't laugh as much as I really thought I would. I really expected to be really chuckling away. Well, what are your memories of Naked Video?
I remember Naked Video being on, but again, I mean, when the first series went out, I would have been 5 years old, I think. So I don't remember. And watching this back, as you say, we've just kind of reviewed the first series. I don't really remember any of this that I was watching. If you'd asked me to pick a few Naked Video sketches that I remembered,
yeah,
I guess they are from probably the later series that I remember.
Yeah.
I remember it being on. I remember speaking about it at school. I think one of my first memories is of it was my neighbour 2 doors down. Ironically, considering Jonathan Watson and Elaine C Smith are in Naked Video. And I remember going round to their house with my mum and Ronnie and Moira. And we'd obviously went round there for an evening, I don't know, to catch up on local neighbourhood gossip or something. My mum had obviously gone round to see them for some reason. And I remember Ronnie giving me a VHS of, it was like Aberdeen 100 Greatest Goals or something. So this must have been like 91, 92, I think. So I would have been like 10, 11 years old. And I remember being so delighted with this because he only gave it me for a loan.
Yeah,
He didn't give it to me. It was just have a watch of this. And I remember being so delighted because I was such a big Aberdeen fan, you know, and I still am, to be a kid, and like, oh, great. And I think maybe we just got our first kind of VHS player or something, and, you know, I was so excited to be able to go and watch this. And I remember him saying to my mum, well, the only other tape I've got that I could give him is Naked Video. And my mum kind of, this horrified look at her face, like, oh, he's too young for that. I think she thought maybe it was a porno. And she maybe thought that maybe Ronnie and Moira were trying to sort of ingratiate me into their local swingers club or something by giving me like a home sex tape. I'm not sure. Obviously, I knew what it was at the time, but didn't say. But I remember watching it, when I was young and thinking it was funny. As I say, a lot of the sketches I remember must be from later series. I agree with you. Watching it back this time, the first series, I was really looking forward to it, and I was a little bit disappointed. I think it started off so strongly. I would say the first episode has 25 sketches in total, and I would say the first 5 sketches are very funny. You have the 9 o'clock news kind of CFAX pages with the sexual positions coming up, and it's kind of a tease. That's funny.
Yeah.
And then you're into the news, which is obviously a mainstay of every episode, that they have this news section. I think that later gets replaced. I think it's in series 3. That gets replaced with Gregor Fisher doing the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting News Corporation, which is what, of course, we use for the news section of the Swally. That was quite funny. The first episode, I found that very funny because it was about the rapists getting tough and the guy on the slide getting his balls caught. And then it was about test tube babies, and one of them was a chimpanzee, and then it was about the editor of The Sun, and it was a gorilla thumbing through a newspaper.
Yeah.
That was funny. And then you go into the Blind Surprise with Elaine C Smith as Cilla Black.
Yeah.
And that had a good punchline in terms of you find out Sharon and Paul are brother and sister.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I find with this series. You had that, so there's a lot of impressions in this series. And then the next sketch is Tony Roper in the Volkswagen ad. This is the man.
Yeah.
And it's the Sinclair C5.
Yeah.
Again, it's very much a mainstay of this series is advert rip-offs and Sinclair C5 jokes, which obviously were hilarious in 1986.
Yeah.
And then you're into Rab C Nesbitt with his first kind of rant about the Tory government. And from then on, it was all downhill for me.
Yeah, it's like the law of diminishing returns after that, wasn't it?
Yeah, started off so strongly and then it just goes downhill. But yeah, I mean, to talk about I say impressions. In this first series, we have impressions of Julia Somerville, John Humphreys, Cilla Black, Sam Fox, Aled Jones, Desmond Wilcox, Mark McManus, Dempsey and Makepeace, Clint Eastwood, Rambo, Sean Connery, Noel Edmonds, and Colonel Sanders. That's quite a lot of impressions to cram into 6 series. And the advert rip-offs the list is just as long, which I can come to, but it's My Little Pony, Trivial Pursuit, Mr. Kipling, Andrex, After 8, Compact Discs, South African Nuts, and Castrol GTX.
Levi Jeans.
Was that and Levi Jeans. How did I miss that off the list? Of course, yeah, Levi Jeans.
Those advert spoofs, I think probably at the time, were probably quite slick. You know what I mean? Because there are some of those adverts that they're spoofing that I can remember, because some of them are classic. Like that one you mentioned, the Volkswagen guy. This is a guy who bet on black and it came up red and all that sort of stuff, the sex kitten and everything. That's quite a classic. I mean, I can remember that advert being on when I was wee. And the After 8's advert, I wonder who's going to have the last After 8. I remember that being on as well. I vaguely remember the Levi Soviet Russia Communist Bloc advert. I did chuckle at that one when he gets his contraband Levi's and they don't fit. So, they don't always land. But on the impressions part of it, I don't know how you feel about this, but people that I'm very familiar with, like actors, for example, or impressionists or whatever, so I know they're Scottish, and I've heard their proper voices. When they do, like, accents, and they can be doing quite a good job of it. And I thought Elaine C Smith did a decent Cilla Black, if I'm being honest. I thought it was a pretty good appropriation. Yeah. For some reason, it just makes me a wee bit uncomfortable, like a bit embarrassed. Like it's my mum that's trying to do a funny voice, or my dad or something. Do you know what I mean? I'm just a bit kind of...
Hello, Chucks, it's Cilla here. Oh, we had a lovely audience tonight, oh, yeah.
Like Tony Roper kidding on that he's English, or Gregor Fisher doing like a silly English voice and I thought, well, why do these sketches, like, it doesn't feel like in a lot of these sketches that being English is essential to the comedy of the sketch. It could be just as funny, maybe even funnier if they just played it Scottish, because I would like from that whole kind of first season, there's, apart from the Rab C parts, which as I've mentioned, there aren't very many. There's not really a lot of Scottish sketches. You know what I mean?
No, there's not. And that was what surprised me about watching it. I did make notes of, like, there's a lot of English humour in this and English sketches. And even in the first episode, in fact, that is where it goes downhill for me. Like I say, in the first episode, after the Rab C Nesbitt sketch, the next sketch is the Liverpool, a job-free zone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, why are you making fun out of Liverpool? I guess, I don't know, but then there was stuff there about the Orange March, but then of course you have Shadwell, the Welsh point, because I guess say two of the cast were Welsh.
Yeah.
I can only presume it's because it was going out on BBC Two, which was then a national kind of channel. So you didn't have like BBC Two Scotland, whereas you would have had BBC One Scotland. So it was going out nationally, so they had to make kind of English and Welsh jokes, but I was surprised at how little of it was Scottish humour. I mean, it kind of put me off when I saw them, seeing Andy Gray and Elaine C Smith putting on full English accents. It left me a little bit cold.
No, I agree. I mean, what it feels like to me is, and I'm kind of too young to remember it when it was on the television, but I have seen bits and bobs of it over the years. Like quite a lot of bits and bobs of it is not the 9 o'clock news with like Rowan Atkinson and Smith and Jones and Pamela Stevenson and those guys. And that's kind of, it's all written by the Blackadder guys and stuff, and it's quite topical humour, and it kind of feels like I feel like Not the 9 o'clock news was well and truly finished by the time Naked Video was broadcast, and it felt like they were trying to do a kind of new Not the 9 o'clock news. Do you know what I mean? And to your point, they're trying to market it to the whole country and not just Scotland.
Well, yeah, I think it was finished because I think when this went out on BBC Two, it was up against Blackadder, which was on BBC One.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, Not the 9 o'clock news is well and truly finished. Blackadder was in full effect, and yeah, this is what it was up against. So I think I read something with Jonathan Watson saying, yeah, we just got buried in the ratings because we were up against Blackadder.
Not the 9 o'clock news ran from 1979 to 1982, so it was well and truly finished by the time this came on. But some of the humour I was quite surprised by. There's in the Rab C Nesbitt's first appearance, he compares the Holocaust he says that the Holocaust was a skive compared to this. And I'm thinking, you can't be like making jokes about the Holocaust. I mean,
And you mean you can talk about your 30s? Your 30s, eh? Christ, I lived through the 30s. I had TB, I had ringworm. And I saw the jazz singer 4 times. Christ, I know what I'm talking about. I mean, you can talk about your Holocaust. That's fair enough, your Holocaust. But Christ, that was a skive compared to this. That was a doodle compared to this.
I know this is like 35 years ago, but I'd have thought, especially when there would still be quite a lot of people who may have survived the Holocaust alive at the time. Not that making jokes about it when they're all dead is any better either, but I was surprised. And then the sketch where Gregor Fisher and Ron Bain are trying to come up with a sitcom set in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. And I think one of Gregor Fisher's suggestions for a title is "I Ain't Half Thin, Mum," or something like that. And I'm just thinking, there'll be people in the UK that may have survived Japanese prisoner of war camps that might see this.
I believe, and this obviously doesn't reflect the opinions of the Swally, but his 3 suggestions are you being starved? I ain't half thing, Mum. And I did laugh at, I'll be honest, Heidi Hi Hiroshima.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, that is one of the 2, I think, sketches that I'm like, you cannot get away with that nowadays. And the audience do audibly groan. Because he does say something that I'm not going to repeat on this, but he says it, and the audience groan after he says it. And it is kind of a racial comment. Uh-huh. So I was glad to see that the audience kind of was like, oh, that's a bit rough.
Yeah.
I was quite surprised how political it was, but I suppose in 86 that was the thing to do. But it was very much, anti-Tory, anti-Thatcher, anti-Reagan. It was very much nuclear war focused as well.
I think that was the vogue thing, because obviously you had Spit and Image at the time, which was, I think, Spit and Image were probably at its sort of height at that point, is the height of its popularity. Not that 9 o'clock news was quite political as well, but maybe in a sort of cleverer way, you know what I mean? And I think just with Thatcher, she's obviously quite an easy big target that you could get a lot of mileage out for satire and comedy writers in the 1980s, because a big kind of personality, female prime minister. enemy of most people, it felt like, you know what I mean, unless you were wealthy or in a certain class in the UK. So yeah, probably miles and miles of comedy you could get out of Thatcher back then.
Thatcher, of course, they end every episode, apart from the one where they really heavily go at nuclear war. I think it's episode 3. They have Reagan doing the roar at the end, but every episode ends with Thatcher giving a big kind of roar.
Yeah.
In the MGM logo, which, I'd forgotten about, but as soon as I saw it, I remembered, and I did burst out laughing, I have to admit.
I think they replaced, when she got voted out, I think they replaced her with John Major in later series.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
okay.
Did something similar.
They don't shy away from touching on issues of the era, and I think that's summed up as well in... That's another thing. As long as a lot of impressions and a lot of kind of advert parodies, there's a song, I think, in every episode.
Yeah.
And in episode 1, you have Elaine C Smith, evidently as Sam Falk, singing about being page 3. And I think the particular line I like is like, spread out like a haddock. Now, Elaine C Smith, she's not a bad singer in terms of the songs that she sings. She's all right.
I was going to say, the only thing positive I could find to say about the songs were the fact that Elaine C Smith is a good singer. And I don't know if she's done any kind of musical stuff in her career. You know, obviously we know her from most recently Two Doors Down, playing Mary Doll and Rab C Nesbitt and other small parts here and there. But she's a good singer. She's a really good singer.
Yeah, really good. I mean, she sings, I think, most of the songs, apart from maybe the last one where they have like a group kind of Band-Aid style song. But yeah, she's brilliant. So, if we talk about the kind of characters that came out from it. So, I mean, obviously, Rab C Nesbitt is the first one, which I'm pretty certain we'll cover Rab in a future episode, so we can kind of maybe skim over a little bit. But he's only in 3 sketches in the first series, and I kind of feel that he almost builds momentum. Like, the first one is like a rant in the street. The second one, in my opinion, is fantastic when he's Andy Gray in the dole office and the benefits office, and he's not getting the money, and that's I think brilliant. And then of course the last one is when Mary Doll comes in, although she was in a sketch before, but you were like, I did note down, I'm like, is this Mary Doll? And then of course she comes in with Rab later, but I guess this is the first kind of footings of Rab C Nesbitt.
She's good in that sketch, that last sketch that she appears in. I found that one quite funny because by the time I got to episode 6 of this, I was thinking, you know, I think probably I was trying too hard to enjoy it at this point, because you always feel, you know, when you watch something Scottish, like kind of River City is a good example. I'm not saying that River City is bad, but it's a soap opera. So a soap opera immediately invites itself to criticism. And I mean, I don't watch soap operas, right? You know, I used to watch Neighbours when I was a kid because everybody did, but that's it, you know. So River City it's not something I would watch. And I have watched it, but I've always found it hard to criticise it because it's almost like your wee brother's performing in the school play, and you know deep down in your heart that he's not very good, but you have to kind of say how good he is because he's your wee brother. Do you know what I mean? Even though you know and everybody else knows that it's not great. And I felt a wee bit like this. I felt a bit like this with Sunshine on Leith, but I felt more comfortable criticising Sunshine on Leith because although it's set in Scotland, there's English people in it. It's not like it's a Scottish production all by itself, you know what I mean? It's you got Film 4 in there, or whoever, the BFI. It's very difficult to criticise Naked Video, even though I know that it deserves a bit of criticism because there are a lot of it that's not very good. But that last sketch of Rab C Nesbitt and Elaine C Smith as Mary Doll, I found really, really funny when he feels like he's achieved something because he's been diagnosed as a psychopath, and she's all pleased for him as well, and then she sticks the heat on the doctor.
I think to divert away, we'll come back to the mainstay characters then. We've spoken about Rab.
Yeah.
We'll come back to the Baldy Man next, I think. But to touch upon your point about speaking about the actors, you can't take anything away from them.
No.
They are giving it their all, and they are phenomenal. I had a really hard time picking in terms of the Sean Connery Award of who won this series.
Yeah.
I mean, I did have an eventual winner, but I could have given it to 4 or 5. I mean, Fisher's amazing. Andy Gray almost pains me. Like, I mean, Andy Gray, because obviously we covered him in City Lights, and he must have been doing City Lights at the same time as this.
Yeah.
Now, Andy Gray, dearly missed, and he did have a great career in terms of a great theatre career and stuff. How did he not go on to do bigger things? He is phenomenal in this, in terms of the way he's acting. Some of his performances in the sketches, he's brilliant. How did he not go on to have a bigger career than he did?
I found myself wanting to see more of him because it feels like he's not in it as much as a lot of the other players. I mean, you're right, he does do the news thing with Helen Lederer every episode. But, you know, like, Ron Bain seems to be in quite a large percentage of all the sketches. Gregor Fisher certainly is in a lot. Elaine C Smith, Helen, and Jonathan Watson, and Helen Lederer. The Welsh boy John Sparks, I mean, he's Shadwell, which is in every episode. You don't see as much of him in the kind of one-off sketches.
No.
You know what I mean? Yeah, at the last 1 or 2 episodes, I think you do see a bit more of him than just him doing Shadwell. But I really wanted to see more Andy Gray because I'm like you, like, you know, he reminds me of guys that I remember kind of growing up when I was a kid, just like your dad's pals or your mum's kind of male pals that you just want to kind of, you look forward to when he comes round to visit, and you know what I mean? He's that big disarming smile and effortlessly funny and not like, not too shy or proud to kind of act the goat, you know what I mean, and be silly and everything and get a laugh. I really would have liked to have seen more of Andy Gray in this first series.
You've just put that perfectly, and I can't think of a better description of Andy Gray, as you've said. He's just like your dad's pal, or, you know, your favourite uncle that comes round and just makes you laugh. And he's fantastic. And I mean, I don't know, I don't want to spoil anything in terms of what we're going to be talking about in terms of favourite sketches and stuff, but his turn as Sean Connery is fantastic. Brilliant. And he's so funny in that sketch.
Yeah, he is really funny. With Helen Lederer as the sort of Bond girl temptress who doesn't have a suggestive name.
I mean, to be fair, there are a few things said in that sketch that probably wouldn't fly nowadays.
No, he's really good. As I say, there just wasn't enough of him for me. Like the sketch where they were in the bar and they're all pretending to be chickens in the bar and acting like, and then he comes in as a big cock rooster, picking up the women. And when that sketch started, I thought, this is a bit silly. You know what I mean? What are they doing? This. How are you going to stretch this out? And then he comes in, he's got the kind of big quiff and all that, you know. And he is. I think he was quite a big tall fella, right? He was definitely over 6 foot, so he just plays the part like perfectly.
As you say, it turned out quite silly initially, and then did kind of turn into one of my funniest sketches. The same as when they have the Scottish folk band, and he turns up as Duncan, who's pretending to be homosexual. And that's one thing I was like, oh, God, is this going to be a bad 80s joke? But then it turns out, kind of ahead of its time and maybe turned on its head, that he was the only one that wasn't homosexual. And was kind of pretending to be. And I thought that was quite, okay, that's okay. I quite like that twist.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. And I like the kind of islands accents that they're doing, the sort of Orkney accents and whatnot, you know. The sort of two kind of hand drummers. Maybe that's a good time to mention, just on what you said there about that sketch being a bit more subversive and a bit more modern. There's some of the people that wrote that contributed to Naked Video. You got guys on there like Harry Enfield. You probably know that. I had no idea that he had written sketches from there. Apparently in later seasons, Steve Coogan did a bit of writing for it. Rick Mail. Obviously Ian Pattison, who created Rab C Nesbitt and would go on to basically have a career in books and plays and television series of Rab C Nesbitt. Phil Differ, who's quite a well-known Scottish comedy writer. But I wonder, when you watch some of the sketches, I sometimes wonder who contributed that. You might think, well, because Harry Enfield's, I remember his sketch show, and he was more of a kind of characters guy. He had started off with guys like Stavros and loads of money, and then later on he would do like the upper class Twit and Smashy and Nicey with Paul Whitehouse, So like more character stuff. I don't know if like maybe Rick Mail might have been a bit more topical, I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But some of the humour, I mean, even for 1986, there was a sketch that you and I think we're both quite shocked by, and it's a sketch where, I'm not sure who it is, which actors it is, because it's hard to see, but they basically dress up as West Indian people in London.
I mean, it's 100% Helen Lederer, and I think it's Andy Gray.
Right.
Because if you think about the rest of the show, it was often those two that were paired together as kind of the English-speaking, couple.
Right.
Or, I couldn't see Andy Gray because it was dark, not a...
And he was, and he had heavy makeup
They are blacked up.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's horrific, but it's clearly Helen Lederer, and she is fully blacked up. And as I say, I would need to go back and check, but I'm pretty certain it's Andy Gray.
The one thing I will say about it, right, apart from the fact that you have white people doing impersonations of black people, which obviously just doesn't, it's just not acceptable. But the sketch itself, they're not actually making fun of the minority, because the kind of payoff is they think there's burglars in the house. The guy checks. They realise that it is burglars. So we can sleep soundly because it's not the police. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's a criticism of the police.
Yeah.
It's not, still, okay. Yeah, you still can't do that, but...
But you could do it with two black actors, and that sketch would be fun. It'd be funny. You know what I mean? And they could probably embellish it a bit more and whatnot. But yeah.
Oh no, if that had been on the real McCoy, then it would be hilarious. But you can't get away with that on two white actors blacking up. But I guess it was 86, so things were different back then.
I mean,
but still not acceptable.
I don't remember a lot of that. I mean, I know that a lot of it happened a lot in the 60s and the 70s. I know that just from seeing documentaries and stuff like that about TV then. But I don't really watching stuff like Russ Abbott or Cannon and Ball or that sort of Saturday, the afternoon, early evening, the comedians and stuff like that. I don't really remember Les Dawson putting on blackface and doing a character like that. Or I mean, maybe you can remember. I'm not saying that he never did it. I just don't remember.
I can't remember specific instances, so I'm not going to get myself tied up with anything.
No,
but
of course not.
I'm pretty certain there was.
But interestingly, the show is produced by Colin Gilbert, who produced pretty much all the Scottish comedy at the time, Scotch and Rye, Kick Up the 80s. He worked on Not the 9 O'Clock News, which isn't Scottish, but he produced City Lights, and he produced Rab C Nesbitt. But his father, I noticed on my research, was a man called Jimmy Gilbert, who was also Scottish, but he worked on classic British comedy like Fawlty Towers, The Frost Report, Last of the Summer Wine, amongst other things. So Colin's comedy heritage, or his DNA rather, is pretty strong.
Obviously, I realised this first series went out in 86, and that would have been with the beginning of the Falklands, wasn't it?
No, the Falklands was 82 and 83.
Okay, so after the Falklands then. I don't remember us having a kind of big thing against South Americans, but there seems to be a lot of jokes targeted towards Puerto Ricans or Chileans in this show. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did.
They have the moon buggy landing and the tires have been stolen. The Puerto Ricans have been here.
Yeah.
I think there's another couple of kind of little digs at South American countries, and I was like, what was the need for that back then?
I think
anything?
I think there was a lot of these places like Chile and all that were sort of dictatorships, and there was human rights things going on, and some of them were involved in drug cartels and whatnot. I think it was in the news.
Because I guess they do have there are quite a couple of sketches in terms of them having them dressed up as dictators. I mean, that was a great Andy Gray sketch when he's the sniper and he shoots the dictator and goes back to Gregor Fisher as, was it the fat man? And he's pick anything off the top shelf.
Yeah.
So I think we've spoken about Rab C Nesbitt as probably the most famous. I think probably the other famous one to come out of it is the Baldy Man, and he had his own sketch show, I think, or comedy series.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or is that really not funny?
The sketches in Naked Video, I don't think are, personally speaking, they didn't make me laugh either. I think maybe the reason that it got, because it was 1995, the Baldy Man TV show came out, which is, it's 4 years after Naked Video finished. And I don't know if it was maybe a bit of a trying to cash in on Mr. Bean, because because I don't think he ever spoke. I don't remember watching the Baldy Man TV show or even seeing any of it, to be honest. But I feel like he didn't speak in it. He just got into difficult situations, much like Mr. Bean. I remember they used them for one of the Hamlet cigar adverts, and it was actually they appropriated the first sketch that he's in when he's in the photo booth in the very first episode, and he keeps missing the flash. I remember they used that sketch pretty much wholesale in a Hamlet advert. But I think it's maybe a bit of its time. I don't find Mr. Bean particularly funny either. I mean, there are some little bits of Mr. Bean that if I see it kind of make me smile. But I think it's for me. I like my humour to be a little bit more sophisticated.
Well, if you're talking about sophisticated humour, then I guess the third most popular would be our Welsh poet, Shadwell.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah, it didn't strike well with me at all. I didn't find him funny. A couple of bits were kind of amusing about his mum not paying the instalments in his trousers or him going to the zoo, but I didn't find him funny at all.
Hello, I'm Shadwell the poet. I know what you're saying. Why isn't he dead? All the best poets are dead. Well, if it's any consolation, quite a lot of people who've enjoyed my poems in the past are dead now. And I don't feel very well myself, as a matter of fact.
No, really? I didn't find him I suppose, at the risk of sounding a bit patronising to a whole country, I did find him kind of charming, that kind of sort of Welsh, I've got Welsh friends. I like the Welsh accent. It's maybe my second favourite accent from the UK after Scotland. But, I mean, I feel like, I don't know if maybe we need to see some later Shadwells, but I feel like that was a lot funnier back when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if I've just got older, or if maybe, like we said earlier, didn't really get into its stride until a few series in. But I mean, the interesting thing about John Sparks, who plays Shadwell, is that he also plays Fireman Sam in the TV show and is the narrator on Peppa Pig.
Oh, very good. I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Because I had never heard of him or seen him, and I couldn't place him at all. Because I expected to know everybody that was in Naked Video before I started watching this first season. Like, obviously, I knew Tony Roper, Jonathan Watson, Andy Gray, Gregor Fisher. I knew Helen Lederer and Elaine C Smith were in it. Ron Bain surprised me. So I don't know if he was in later seasons. I know he pops up in the odd thing,
Yeah, I think he left after series 2, I think.
Right. I think he popped up in a couple of Rab C's and a couple of Still Games, I think, Ron Bain, when I looked at his IMDb. But I think John Sparks, though, I think he left after maybe 3 seasons or something like that. So
I mean, it's a nice mix overall. You have some good longer sketches, which is what I like when you're having a kind of sketch show, but you have very quick interspersed. And I know you messaged me during the week to say that you had the theme tune stuck in your head.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it does play quite a lot during each episode, because they have these 2 or 3 little 3-minute sections where they have like quick 30-second sketches, which, some of them are complete crap, like the mundane stuff, like the I think it's Elaine C Smith and Helen Lederer fighting over a bag for fruit and veg, trying to get it open.
Yeah.
Stuff like that falls a bit flat. But then the next sketch, well, it's not the next sketch, but the next episode, one of those sketches is the guy going to the garage and taking a sex doll out of his coat and blowing it up with the air.
Yeah.
And I found that quite funny.
Yeah.
I think they were hit and miss in terms of what really hit in those kind of little quick sketches.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like you said, the first episode had 25 sketches in it. That's a lot.
Well, yeah, that was one of the least. I mean, episodes 2 and 3 had 29 sketches each. Episode 4 had 31 sketches, and episode 5, 23, and episode 6, 23. And so, yeah, quite a lot of stuff to cover.
Some of them are like 20 seconds long. You know what I mean? If that even, they're...
Yeah, very quick little sketches, but then some of them are a bit longer. But then you'll have, for example, episode 4, which has 31 sketches, you have it's probably 5 seconds long. Jonathan Watson just looking at the camera saying, you've either got it or you've not got it. And that's it. That's a sketch.
Yeah.
And okay, it was funny because it was Jonathan Watson, and then you have these other sketches that I'm like, okay, why you have the whole kind of question time set up, and you have panel behind the presenter, and you have the dramatic music, and it's, hello, welcome to your questions. Tonight we're asking, is Jeffrey Archer a tit? And they all just nod. Like, okay, well, that's it. And you're like, really? You've set all that up just for that? For like a 20-second sketch that wasn't really that funny.
Yeah. Going back to the kind of news that they do at near the start of every show. So basically, Have I Got News for You? I've built a whole kind of quiz show around that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like actual news footage, but with joke headlines / descriptions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could say that, or you could say even the day-to-day probably ripped that off.
Yeah.
The start of the show to a kind of higher extent.
Yeah. I guess even Brass Eye to some extent, because they would use like actual footage as something else, wouldn't they? So, well, I feel a bit guilty about not being super enthusiastic about Naked Video. Maybe in the future, like in the far away future, we could have a look at maybe one or two of the later seasons and see if our suspicions that it gets better are confirmed.
I would like to. I do think, because some of the sketches I recall aren't, I haven't seen. I do remember, I think, Gregor Fisher as the newsreader from the North Hebrides. I seem to recall sketches with him and Tony Roper as kind of like scientists, and they've got stuff in a science lab. There's a few other sketches I seem to remember that I haven't seen yet. So I do think it does find its stride a bit more. But yeah, I'll be honest, the first series, it wasn't great.
Yeah, sorry, Naked Video. Try harder. Well, I think, is it time to put Naked Video through our awards?
I think we probably could, yeah. Let's have a go through the awards then. What have we got first?
What about the James Cosmo Award for being in Everything Scottish? A tough one.
I did have a tough one with this, and I did look through everyone, and I kind of came between Fisher and Roper. I mean, Watson could be included as well, so could Smith.
Yeah.
It could go any four of them. I mean, Andy Gray to a certain extent. I kind of had to give it to Gregor Fisher, I think.
I agree, but I wanted to make a point about Jonathan Watson. I meant to mention this earlier. So, we've seen Jonathan Watson in Naked Video. We've both watched, although I've not reviewed it for the Swally, we reviewed it for the Swally. We saw him in City Lights. We haven't reviewed it for the Swally, but I'm sure we will in the future. He's in Bob's Servant. He's in Only an Excuse, which ran for a really long time on Hogmanay. In fact, the last one only went out in maybe 2018 or 19. Long time.
I didn't know. I think it was this. It was 2020.
Was it?
It was the last. Yeah, it was the last one ever. Yeah.
He most recently is in Two Doors Down. So that's those are all. By no means what I've mentioned are the only things he's done in the last 35 years. How come he looks exactly the fucking same now in Two Doors Down? If anything, he looks younger in Two Doors Down than he does in City Lights or Naked Video.
You know what I think swayed us of the City Lights was that he had a moustache. And watching him in this, in Naked Video, I was amazed. I was like, he doesn't look any different.
No, I know.
How does he... Yeah, he looks brilliant. And I would like to give it to him because, again, we haven't really spoken about him that much, but he kind of disappears, I think, like about episodes 2, 3, and 4. He seems to be in the first episode, and then he kind of vanishes, and then he pops up again in the later episodes. I don't know if that was something to do with just the way they'd filmed the sketches, but yeah, he does deserve, because he is in a lot of stuff. But I think purely has to be Gregor Fisher, I think, from the amount of Scottish stuff that he's done. That was who I gave it to, but I would happily give it to Watson, Roper, or even Smith. I think they all deserve a shade of that award.
Maybe then to that point it should be a company award to the company of actors. Could be. Yeah, to make it fair.
It should be, actually, yeah. Let's do that then.
The Frank Begbie Gratuitous Swearing Award. Not a huge amount, I don't think, in this, is it?
I think it's like 2 or 3 instances. I gave it to Rab for his sketch with Andy Gray when he's in the DSS office and he says, maybe I'll go out and chip some bastard.
I agree.
Wine, is it? Wine? Don't you wine me, pal. Don't you wine me. Christ, I don't drink wine, I don't drink wine. Well, fair enough. Maybe I'll take a wee slug now and again, a wee drink. And maybe I'll fall down and maybe I'll stand back up again and maybe I'll chip some bastard.
For the Jake McQuillan Your Tease Out Award, I gave it to Elaine C Smith for sticking the heat on Ron Bain in that last Rab C Nesbitt sketch at the end where she headbutts him before they leave his office.
I'll give it to that then, yeah. I had Jonathan Watson as Ala Jones getting kicked in the balls.
Yeah.
But I'll give it to Mary Doll sticking the heat on him. Yeah. You can take that, definitely.
Deserves an honourable mention, anyway, the Ala Jones. Yeah. Archetypal Scottish moment. So I think we would have expected there to have been a lot more of these in Naked Video.
Yeah.
You know?
I've just given it to Rab C Nesbitt overall, to be honest. There was a lot that kind of, I couldn't think what else to give it to. So I've just given it to Rab C because...
Yeah, I think Rab gets it.
That was it.
I think there are two other ones that deserve a mention. The sketch about the sketch with the orange guys saying how they accept anybody, Presbyterians, etc. Then one guy says, yeah, I'm a Catholic, and they attack him. It's maybe not a Scottish moment, maybe more of a West of Scotland moment. And the sketch with Gregor Fisher and Tony Roper playing the two Jakies with a good bin guide and they're raking through the bins. But I think it's very difficult not to give it to Rab. And then I think probably the toughest one to award is probably the Sean Connery who won the show / who got to go home and fuck the prom queen.
I gave it to Gregor Fisher. Purely because he had two characters to come off of this show in terms of Rab C Nesbitt and the Baldy Man. So I think he wins it kind of overall, and he is in my favourite sketch of the entire show, which we will do next in terms of our favourite sketches. Or I don't know if you've picked a favourite sketch.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
But yeah, he, for me, wins it. I think you could give it to a multitude of people because I think Helen Lederer is fantastic in it. I think Elaine C Smith is great because, as you said earlier, she does, all the singing and she's got a great voice.
Yeah.
They're all great, but yeah, I gave it to Gregor Fisher.
I gave it to Gregor Fisher too, but I did have honourable mention for Elaine C Smith. Although she's not had the same level of success following a Naked Video as maybe Gregor Fisher, and maybe even a couple of other guys have, just for her sort of versatility in it. You know what I mean? We discovered that she's a good singer. She can do a good Cilla Black impression. Various other bits and bobs. So I think runner-up Sean Award for Elaine C Smith, I think. And okay, so what was your favourite scene? Sketch or sketches?
Without a shadow of a doubt, it was episode 5. It had me in tears, and it's the sketch with Gregor Fisher as E. Jones Stud. When he's driving around in his rent-a-ride van.
Morning.
See anything you fancy then?
Just now, thanks.
You are one hot bitch, lady.
Later, perhaps.
I'll look forward to it.
Because it just starts off so inconspicuous. He's in this shop, he's got a northern accent, he's polishing an ornament, and you're just thinking, what is this? And he's like, oh, so I got a government grant and I was doing this. And it turned out I became a gigolo. And I just couldn't help but laugh, and that was genuinely my favourite sketch of the whole show. I thought it was hilarious.
I think we have to give it to that one, but the other one that had me cracking up was that CFAX selection positions of the week.
It's the first sketch.
I know. My expectations were raised so high off the back of that sketch, but you and I are of an age where we remember CFAX. We remember looking at the football scores, putting the subtitles on, doing the bamboozle quiz, or whatever else. And there would be recipes on there, there'd be news on there, and all that kind of thing. And just for CFAX to have the sexual position of the week is just genius. It's just absolute genius.
Just to get this right, your favourite sketch is one that no actors were involved in at all.
Well, yeah. And there were a lot of sketches that I really liked that actors were in, but that one, I feel like that one made me laugh the most, apart from the Gregor Fisher as the kind of Kickstarter stud. So, well, Rick Steen in Aberdeen. That rhymes. We hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about Naked Video. I'm sorry we didn't. I'm sorry we don't have as fond memories of it as you clearly do. I hope you enjoyed the episode anyway, and I'm glad that I watched it. I don't regret watching it. It was good to spend time with Gregor Fisher and Tony Roper and Elaine C Smith and all those guys.
Oh, I'm happy we watched it again, and I'm delighted to be able to go back to it, but I don't think I'll be watching that anytime soon. Apart from the John Stud sketch, I may watch that quite a lot. Okay, well, thank you very much. that was a listener request. Now, I picked Under the Skin a couple of weeks ago, so it's your choice this week, Greg. So what are we going to be looking at next time on the Swally?
When you chose Under the Skin, I had never seen it before. So I've chose something that I don't think you've ever seen before. We've done this is like a 20-second episode, I think, that we're recording now.
Yeah, I think 23 will be the next one, yeah.
And we have never had one of the actors on anything we've reviewed yet, which is a bit weird considering what a massive Scottish and international personality he is. So I've chosen 1993's Down Among the Big Boys, starring Billy Connolly and Dougie Henschel and Swally favourite Alex Norton, written by Peter McDougall, who wrote Just a Boys Game, which we reviewed back last year, which is still available on the podcast directories. You can find a link to it on our website. But I don't think you've seen it, so it's a kind of...
I don't think I have.
...drama, but with some very funny moments in it as well. So I hope you'll enjoy watching it.
The name rings a bell so much, but I don't know if I have seen it. I'll need to check. As soon as I start watching it, I'll know if I have, but I don't think I have.
Great. So I look forward to discussing that with you next time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Culture Swally Pod, or you can email us with anything you'd like us to review. Look, we just covered a review from Rick Steen from Aberdeen. So if you want to get in touch with us, then you can email us on cultureswally@gmail.com. And similarly, if you've got any news stories, just send them in. Or you can follow us on Twitter at SwallyPod, or hey, why don't you check out our website? Greg's got all the details of that because he's built it himself and he's very proud of it.
Yeah, so you can visit us at cultureswallyblog.com, where you can find links to other episodes. You can also find links to some of our favourite news stories that we have reviewed over the last 20 plus episodes of the Culture Swally, and we'll, when time permits and when I can work out how to do it, we'll add in other bits and bobs or Scottish culture and more information about the movies, TV shows that we've reviewed. So
fantastic. Right, well, I'm off to get down among the big boys. Okay.
Me too.
Until next time, Greg.
Thank you very much. Have a good week.
See you later.
All the best.